Good morning, everyone. It's Jeana at Art of Skincare. I'm really excited about our topic this morning. We're going to be talking about beauty from the inside. We're going to start at that inner health point. I want to give you guys a little bit of background about myself before I introduce our guest today. So I'm 60 years old. I have a gene mutation. They call it MTHFR. Basically, it just means that it's very hard for me to take any kind of vitamins or supplements or even use hormone therapy, even bioidentical hormone therapy. Really hard on my body. So I've gone for years with just not taking vitamins because they make me sick. So over the years, I've noticed that my skin's looking tired, my body's feeling tired, my brain is starting to feel tired, and I attributed that to menopause and aging, being 60 years old, and I didn't really realize that perhaps I was like that frog in the boiling water and that I could actually there's something missing in my diet that I could change. I had a very healthy diet, I believed. I was doing everything that everyone says you should do for a healthy diet. And I was just feeling tired. So a year ago, Morgan and I started doing some investigating and looking at different types of nutritional supplements, and my husband got on board as well. And we started experimenting with our acne clients with what we call ancestral supplements. So these are food-based supplements. In particular, they're coming from grass-fed beef, and it's that organ meat. And so Morgan and I started taking these, and she and I both noticed such a big difference. For one thing, all of a sudden my skin, my body, and my brain and my emotions are 10 years younger. I'm just so much more stronger, feel better. I'm losing my gray hair. It's going back to brown. And it's been very interesting. And Morgan has had a similar experience, and she's been using these supplements with her acne clients and seeing remarkable results for clearing the skin. So here we are a year later, and feeling much better and wanting to share that with everyone else. And we started looking around. The supplements that we were using were very expensive, and we wanted to find something a bit more affordable. So we were reaching out to lots of different companies, and I stumbled upon Jared at Enviromedica. And he's producing amazing ancestral food supplements at a reasonable price so that we could bring them to you guys for a better price than what you might find other places. So now what I want to do is introduce Jared. Jared is the founder of Enviromedica, which is an ancestral foods-based supplement company. And Jared, I would just love to hear from you. What is your backstory? What brought you to ancestral foods and into creating Enviromedica?
Well, great question. I appreciate that. And so, a lot of your story sounds, somewhat parallel to my own. I've been in the industry for going on 17 years now. I started this directly out of school. I've always had a passion for natural health, stretching back to my early teens. And, I really have my mother to thank for that. She was a herbalist, very much into the natural alternative type medicine movement. And so I got my start very early in that. I'll try and summarize it as best I can, but I started with kind of a fascination of individual nutrients or very early on. And over time, my appreciation and understanding for these nutrients and the complexities of the human body, evolved, but somewhat of a pun intended, because I really took an interest in ancestral health, and really, what does ancestral health mean? In a nutshell, it's, what our evolutionary biology was designed for, right? Because this, modern existence that we're in right now is really a blip on the cosmic continuum. We really are in humans are kind of fascinating creatures to me. We're very kind of arrogant in our own knowledge of things, wherever we're at in time. So at this moment, everybody thinks, well, we got most of this figured out. But there's a huge there's a huge area of information and knowledge that we just don't know what we don't know. And so my kind of quest for this knowledge, my thirst for this knowledge has always been around that subject matter. You know, what is it that drives us towards or away from optimal health? You know, our genes, our biology was made to interact with the environment and foods in a certain way, and we've really gone a long way from that. You know, my company, Enviromedica, you know, I am the founder, and that you know, kind of what we do here as a company is my passion and my interests, you know, scaled into a business. That's the best way I can explain it. You know, you know, the products that we put out are products that, you know, kind of similar to what you touched on. I'm like, why are these, you know, products so expensive in the market? You know, you can still create high quality products that are not out of reach for, you know, for the average person, which I would argue a lot of them are at this point. We are a bit of an anomaly in the space in that we are a brand owner. We have a line of supplements, but we're also a fully integrated manufacturer here in Austin. So we manufacture all of our own supplements. You know, we fly these organs and glandulars directly in from New Zealand. We encapsulate them here at our facility. Our quality team oversees the manufacturing of them. And, you know, you know, that's kind of our way of taking control of the, you know, everything from end to end. And, you know, you know, as my own interest and knowledge progresses, you know, even myself, you know, there's a lot that we just don't know. And so, you know, single nutrients, you know, in nature and in evolutionary biology, and it doesn't matter what we're talking about, everything operates on what's called a U curve, right? It's this Goldilocks zone of just right, not too much, not too little, right?
And guesswork, a lot of guesswork, you know, in there. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, a lot of guesswork if you're taking single inputs, right? So, you know, that's the kind of gotcha there, right? Where foods have this natural, these natural mechanisms built in to protect you from, you know, too much of any one thing, you know, and so like just kind of touching on like beef liver is a very popular, you know, glandular supplement, organ and glandular supplement. It's one of my favorites. You know, vitamin A. There's this kind of you know, irrational fear of vitamin A with a lot of folks out there. But all of that irrational, you know, virtually all, I'll say virtually all, because there's some really extreme use cases. But virtually all of that fear is based around synthetic vitamin A and isolates of vitamin A. And yes, you can create toxicity with, you know, many nutrients out there. You know, a lot of them are just not as pronounced. They have very kind of, you know, effects that snowball over time. And so, you know, I have a tremendous respect for nature and our evolutionary biology as humans, and what that means in terms of how do we create optimal health. And so that organs and glandulars is one piece of the story. I am obsessed with gut health. Gut health is like my, you know, my second child almost. It is a deep passion of mine as well. Gut health, and, you know, and interestingly enough, gut health and organs and glandulars go hand in hand, right? Complex. You know, the gut's a very complex environment. It doesn't respond well to single inputs, and so, you know, complex foods support complex environments. That's the message. And so you know, I'm very, there's a Japanese concept called ikigai. I don't know if have you ever heard that word before? Yeah. So it's, I think that you would resonate with it too. But it basically means, you know, the coalescing of all things in life that you know, embody your life's purpose. And so this is, you know, this company, what we do here is what I refer to as my ikigai.
Ikigai. I love that. I love that. I like bringing up that topic of gut health, because we know so much happens in the gut, whether it's depression, uh, acne, ill health, everything, a lot of things come up from an imbalance in the gut. And I really like your concept of probiotics. They're a bit different than just going and getting an acidophilus or a bifidus supplement. Can you touch on that? Why yours are different and why you created them that way?
Absolutely. So we deal, almost exclusively with what are called spore-based strains. They're also kind of colloquially referred to as soil-based organism, SBOs, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's some kind of loose terminology around them in the space. But in effect, they're environmental microbes, right? Bacillus are the most abundant environmental microbe out there. The whole lactobacillus acidophilus, these kind of milk-based cultures really developed out of looking at baby poop, right? Like that's
Right.
how it started.
Okay. That makes
And they were
sense.
first,
Right.
yeah, they were first to market too. I mean, this goes back to when I was a kid. I mean, my mother was giving me teaspoons of lactobacillus
Yeah.
acidophilus when
I was
I
doing the
was
same thing
very,
with
very
my
young,
kids. Yes.
so I'm 42 now, and so we're going back a long time, and so you can imagine, like, first movers in the market, tend to, there's like a dogma that just develops over time,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Where,
Becomes the
you know,
accepted norm, even though there's
correct,
not been enough research about it.
correct. Well, there's been a lot of research. I don't want
True.
to, downplay that. There's a
True.
lot of research. However, okay, there's a big missing piece of the puzzle there,
Okay.
and once a baby matures and they start crawling around and putting things in their mouth and eating solid foods, well, there's a rapid maturation of the gut microbiome away from that kind of those cultures, right?
Mm-hmm.
And and so really in a healthy human, they're a very, very, very tiny fraction, right? And so most of the gut microbiome is made up of strains and species that are not in probiotics, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's a quote that's often misattributed to Louis Pasteur, and you may be familiar with this one too. It's the microbe is nothing, the terrain is everything. Okay.
Okay.
And what that means is that the community is more important than any single member, right?
I love that.
And if we and in this also backfills into the nutrient complexity around organs and glandulars, right? Where complexity supports complexity and drives health.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the same thing in the microbiome is true, even more true actually, because you can't take a damaged, inflamed, stressed microbiome and put in lactobacillus acidophilus and expect that to turn things around. It just doesn't work that way,
Mm-hmm.
right? The gut microbiome is an incredibly complex ecosystem, right? And so we approach gut health in a very different way. And it's what, this has been this is not a new term. We didn't come up with this, but how we're applying it towards gut health. I would say that we're kind of the tip of the spear on this is the concept of rewilding, right? And, in science and academia, it's often stated like we don't know what a healthy microbiome is because there's so many diverse microbiomes out there, like fingerprints, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to an extent, that is somewhat true, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like your microbiome and my microbiome
Right.
will likely be different, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there are going to be there's going to be commonalities between healthy gut microbiomes. And one of those commonalities is microbial diversity. Okay. Microbial diversity in the microbiome in your gut is the single biggest predictor of gut health, right?
Okay.
That diversity protects us from pathogens. It protects us from opportunistic microbes. And I kind of like to use the nature analogy, right? And especially in terms of agriculture, okay? what is going to be healthier, a monocrop field of corn or a diverse ecosystem of different vegetables and plants and dandelions and different things that do different things in the soil, attract different insects, attract different birds? You know, it's a leading question, right?
Right.
But I think, and you know, and what do we have to do with monocrop type agriculture like row crops of soy or corn? Well, we have to use tons of insecticides and you know, glyphosate and all different types of things that are deleterious both to the agriculture itself and the crops, but also to the humans that consume those, right? And so focusing on this kind of restoration of the gut microbiome and this rewilding concept is how we you know, how we approach gut health in our probiotic products. And so our probiotics, well, we call Synbiotics because they have ancestral prebiotics like seaweeds and mushrooms in there, alongside bacillus, which are environmental microbes, spore-based strains. And together, you know, it supports the total terrain in the gut. You know, it's not meant to put this one microbe in that, you know, is supposed to save the day.
Right.
I mean, they do in effect, but they do it in a different way. They create metabolites that shift the gut terrain in very favorable ways that help restore health. Sorry if that's all a mouthful, but
no, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. You're really hitting on that restorative or regenerative agriculture, which has me so fascinated. Because as you said, you know, planting different kinds of plants, it's also about having manure in there, right? Having your cow manure mixed in with that. There's just this healthy thing that happens in agriculture when you are doing a more sustainable approach. And you're using, I love that you're using that same approach in our gut health. That makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah. Gut health it's very complex. And again, like this is over a decade or more of just distillation on my side. And, you know, when you get down to it, it's like, you know, a wild gut is a healthy gut. You know, how do we create wild guts then is the question.
Nice.
You know?
Right.
And that's what we're aiming to do, and that's what our products are designed to support.
I love that. So I've been on the beginning one, the advanced formula of Terraflora, and that's, from what I understand, that is about really cleaning out that established bad bacteria that might be in my gut, and then we're going to move on to the more regular flora. Can you talk a little bit about that? I know I had,
Sure.
as I increased, at first I had no adverse reactions at all, but then I went on vacation and it was at the same time that I increased. And we were eating at restaurants every night through the holidays and drinking wine and having desserts. And when we came back home, I think I went through a pretty good little detox from all that using the advanced flora. And it was a little uncomfortable here and there. But once that subsided, it was like I knew the day it changed. I felt so much different. So if you could kind of explain your philosophy around that and why you created a beginning step and then a next step.
Well, you know, so the advanced care incorporates what's called a phage cocktail. Okay. And bacteriophages are, you know, it's some of these things are technical, so it's hard to state them in layman's terms. But effectively, they target very specific, we'll just say, invasive strains of E. coli, right?
Okay.
E. coli are kind of pigs in the gut microbiome. And by that I mean that they consume a lot of resources, right? So if we think about the gut. Actually, if we think about the gut as like a field, right? And in a manner of speaking, it really is, right? Like the comparisons between like soil ecology and gut ecology are strikingly similar. It's really, you know, once you start digging down into the science, it's really interesting stuff. And so essentially, you know, E. coli and several strains of E. coli tend to consume a lot of resources and occupy, like, we'll just say, like, patches of dirt, right, in this field.
Right,
Okay.
right.
And so the advanced care, what it is, it comes in, and these bacteriophages selectively target these, kind of gluttonous strains of E. coli, and help clear them out to create space for beneficial strains to then populate those same ecological niches in the gut, right?
I love that.
And so that's really what's happening. And so, again, like, bouncing, with marketing and whatnot, the best way to describe these things are probiotic multipliers, right? And so it can help move the needle a little bit more expeditiously than otherwise would be happening, and it can advance the progression a little bit further, and especially in more challenging cases, because E. coli loves loves refined sugars
Yeah.
and refined carbohydrates and things like that. So it can also, there's different strategies that can be deployed, but it can help buffer from a vacation event. Like, that's actually, personally, that's what I take on vacation.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a kind of my staple when I travel.
Got it. Makes sense, because you don't know what kind of bacteria you're getting when you're eating at all these different places. You're introducing so many different things that are not normal for you.
Correct. And the concept of food poisoning, how can, let's say, a group go out to dinner and they can all eat the same thing, right? And say half the group gets food poisoning, the other half doesn't, but maybe feels a little discomfort. Well, the question is why? Like, what's the difference there?
Yeah.
Right. And that comes down to the microbiome. That's the resiliency of the gut microbiome, because, as we talked about before, gut diversity protects you from these pathogens and opportunistic type things that make their way into the gut.
Okay.
And I travel a lot. I eat a lot of foods. I have not had a single case of food poisoning in many, many years.
I love that.
So
That's awesome. So I have a combination that I put together that I'm using with my clients, but let's hear from you, Jared. What are your thoughts? Where would you start someone with this?
My foundational, my kind of, and there's always this comment that one thing doesn't work for everybody.
Right.
Well, okay, to an extent, yes. I mean, we all need certain things, and so my default recommendation for getting started is going to be the Terraflora Advanced Care, which we just talked about. The beef liver supplement, and then our bone marrow supplement. And our bone marrow has vitamin K2 in it as well, from fermented natto. And so those are the three products that I recommend, like, out of the gate.
Okay.
Right. That is a kind of a blanket recommendation, barring very limited exceptions.
Awesome. So I am prescribing, and I'm taking, or not prescribing, I'm not a doctor. I'm just recommending what's worked for me. And I've been doing 2 liver, 2 bone marrow, and 2 cartilage. And then I'm taking my advanced care Terraflora 1 twice a day. And I love that combination. But can you tell us a little bit, what would be the differences? I know when Morgan's working with a client who's wanting to take a multivitamin, but those multivitamins have ingredients that cause acne, she's having them use the organ complex, because her understanding is it has more iron in it, which can be needed when you are pregnant. Can you give us a little bit of the difference between those different ancestral supplements that might help us when choosing?
Sure. Organ complex is a good supplement. While both the beef liver and the organ complex do have iron in the very bioavailable what's called heme iron. It's a very bioavailable form of iron. It's not it's not like a air quotes iron supplement. But I will say that I am somewhat in the context of an iron deficiency, I am somewhat partial to the beef liver as taking that as an isolate,
Okay.
mainly because of the copper content. Okay,
Right.
it does have heme iron in there as well, but the copper content is really a important aspect of that product. You need copper to transport and utilize iron. And this goes back to the nutrient complexity talk, right? You
Mm-hmm.
know, most people think, well, I'm deficient in iron, I need
Yeah.
iron, iron, iron,
Iron
iron,
up.
iron, iron,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Okay, you know, not so fast. You know, there's synergy between these nutrients, you know, and there's other synergies that I'm sure you're well aware of, but the copper story is very important when it comes to iron. There are they're basically molecules like chaperones that chaperone this iron around the body and make it bioavailable and able to be utilized. So you know, from my side, I would recommend beef liver,
Awesome.
you know, as a supplement for that use case.
Okay. So I got a couple of questions from there. So when would we choose beef organ over beef liver? Do we need both, or can we choose one or the other? And then my other question, because I don't want to forget it, is the magnesium question, because my husband has told me that I need magnesium in order to utilize the copper that's in the liver. So touching on those things.
Boy, that's you know, the magnesium question opens up a whole nother ball there. You know,
Okay.
magnesium was actually a very early interest of mine, you know, going back 16, 17 years. And so I have a profound appreciation for magnesium.
Mm-hmm.
Again, there's, you know, starting with that, well, there's no single supplement for everybody. Wrong. Magnesium is for
Everyone.
everybody. I don't know. You know, it's completely void in most of our foods these days. Very small quantities. We're not even getting the RDA in an ancestral diet, right?
Right.
Like it's just I was eating an ancestral diet for years, testing my magnesium levels, not where I wanted them to be, not
Okay.
where they should be,
Okay.
right? So magnesium supplementation is a default recommendation as well. It's involved in over 300 different enzymatic reactions in the body. Vitamin D is virtually useless without magnesium. You know, you need it. It's in synergy with zinc as well. You need it to support K2 utilization as well. Again, all
Wow.
these nutrients have a beautiful synergy together, but magnesium is like this like linchpin, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where if you don't have sufficient magnesium in the body, there's a lot of stuff that does not work well. It is by and large, you know, again, kind of that foundational approach that everybody should be taking.
Okay, so next question. I am offering my clients your magnesium spray and your lotion. Is that the way that you prefer getting magnesium into your body, or do you take one of those other magnesium supplements, citrate or glycate or any of that?
Both, yeah.
Okay.
So magnesium is such, you know, magnesium is the demand on magnesium for us now is more than ever, right?
Okay.
And you know, just touching on some things that deplete magnesium, and this is not even getting into the fact that we don't even get the RDA to begin with. So we're already starting off with a handicap in magnesium.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, stress is a huge factor in magnesium. Caffeine consumption, sugar consumption, alcohol consumption, all of these things deplete magnesium. And then the last one that I'll talk about is calcium,
Mm-hmm.
right? You know, how many women, you know, that are premenopausal or perimenopausal, whatever, you know, are being told to take calcium supplements to support bone health, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them, but without really understanding that calcium and magnesium are antagonistic towards each other, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you overconsume calcium, guess what gets pushed out of the body?
Yeah.
Magnesium.
Yeah.
right? And in an ancestral diet, I want to say the calcium to magnesium ratio was like 2 to 1. And in the modern American diet, it's something like 12 to 1 to 30 to 1.
Wow.
Okay.
Hmm.
And so we're talking about things that our body was just not designed to deal with. And so it's not just the lack of an RDA, right? It's not just these things that deplete magnesium, but it's the overconsumption of calcium as well that's kind of depleting our magnesium
Messing us up.
stores. And so personally, I do all of the above, right? I
Okay.
take magnesium baths post workout. I'll use our lotion.
Hmm.
I take magnesium glycinate as a supplement personally.
Okay.
I'm a big fan of that.
Yeah.
We don't produce that, but it's an amazing supplement. Very very slow release in the gut.
Hmm.
Magnesium is tricky too because it has this kind of paradoxical thing going on where the more you take, the less you absorb.
Okay.
For anybody that's done a bowel prep for like a colonoscopy, they
Yeah.
give you magnesium
Magnesium
to
to
flush
clear
your
you out.
bowels out. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so it's like, hey, take more. Okay, well, it doesn't.
Yeah.
The more you take, the faster
It flushes
the
out.
faster it moves.
Yeah.
Yep, you got it. And so magnesium is one of those things that takes a while to correct. You got to be patient.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Um,
it's like a 6 month journey to restore magnesium.
wow. So, and what I want to mention to everyone today is that we're a skincare website, and some people have been seeing the magnesium supplements for the oil and the lotion thinking that's for your face. And magnesium oil is very stingly. You don't apply that to your face, right? Feet, feet are a good place to put it. The lotion can go anywhere on your body. Just want to point out that that's not what we're putting on our faces.
Yeah, it is a very concentrated product.
Yes.
So applying it to non-sensitive areas is definitely recommended.
Yeah.
But using all the above is
Yeah.
very helpful for magnesium.
Yeah.
I also think that there are some particular use cases for topical magnesium that there are some people that really cannot tolerate magnesium supplements at
Hmm.
all. Like it's for some reason it's
Yeah,
just
their gut. Hmm.
something. Yeah, I don't know how to articulate it in a scientific way,
Okay.
but there's an incompatibility there,
Okay.
right? Where you know and it may be related to the gut microbiome. I really can't say,
Yeah.
but just very small amounts, like you mentioned magnesium citrate,
Yeah.
right? Like
Whew.
like
Yeah.
I've given as little as like
Yeah.
50 milligrams of that stuff to somebody, and the next morning they're
Like,
like, yeah, I can't take that
yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
it's an individualized thing, and that's where the topical magnesium really really shines.
Okay. We like our acne clients are usually taking the full 6 that it says on the bottle, but I know every bottle says 6 capsules. Can you address that? Where some people find they can take
Sure,
2 capsules, and some people are taking the full 6. Do you have some input on that? And if you're taking a variety of
sure.
things, like you're taking the organ and the liver and the bone marrow, and all, do you need 6 of each? Yeah, let's touch on that.
Yep, great question. We get it. We get that all the time.
Yeah.
I the 6 capsules is basically it's designed to deliver what would be equivalent to 3 ounces of fresh organs or fresh glandulars, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's after they're freeze dried and powdered and desiccated and put into these
Mm-hmm.
capsules, right? That's the equivalent. But it's a food,
Yeah.
right? It's a whole food. I think that the background recommendation is going to be 6 capsules.
Mm-hmm.
In the case of the organ complex, you can definitely go more aggressively with that,
Okay.
because there are a lot of very interesting nutrient synergies in that.
Okay.
I think that it can also, I'd kind of equate it to like, how much water do you need, right? Well, are you running a marathon? You know, are you retired and sitting on a beach somewhere?
Yeah.
Your nutrient demands are going to, and this is where personalized nutrition comes into play, right? Our default recommendation may be 6 capsules, but if you're an athlete, it's going to be twice or three times that potentially,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
If you are trying to really recover a nutrient deficiency that you know you have, and it's on blood labs that you that are in hand, and you're trying to correct with your practitioner, well, they may have a different tack, right?
Right.
You know, I think that, you know, the upper limit for, you know, how much you can take is pretty high.
Okay.
But I will say that being a whole food, you typically need more than you would in, say, a isolate, like a multivitamin,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so, you know, I the struggle that we do have sometimes is that somebody will say, well, 6 capsules, oh gosh, that's so many.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I mean, that's a subjective thing, right? But I would say, like, 1 capsule a day of beef liver, is that going to move the needle? Probably not.
Mm-hmm.
You know, probably not so much. It's too, you know, regardless of the nutrient synergy, it's still a small amount, right? And so I think that listening to your own individual nutrient demands, if you're working with a practitioner, if you know you have deficiencies you're trying to correct, or if there are other things in your life that you feel drive a higher nutrient demand, then you can definitely go. You can do more.
I love that. While I was traveling last month, I didn't want to take all of my supplements, so I just took the organ. I figured, well, the organ's going to have a mix of stuff in it. What I noticed I didn't feel as good as when I was taking my other mix, the other three, and I wasn't taking even, I don't think, a full 6 of that organ. So that explains kind of that, like you said, with the organ, you can take more. Um, Explain to me, why would I want to add organ to what I'm doing? I'm doing the liver, the bone, the cartilage. Why would I want to add organ to that? Because you said the organ meat has some special synergies in there.
Yeah. So beef liver so the beef liver product is straight New Zealand pasture raised, like, you know, best of the best beef liver that's out there. So that's the beef liver. Organ complex is a blend of 5 different organs and glandulars. Okay, and that's going to be beef. That's going to be liver, kidney, heart, spleen, and pancreas.
Okay.
Okay, and all of those organs and glandulars bring something slightly different to the table.
Okay.
Okay, pancreas has different enzymes in there, right,
Mm-hmm.
to support gut health and signaling molecules, right, and they're, you know, I don't want to get too technical here, but
Okay.
there are some very, very complex signaling molecules in these organs and glandulars that are just not known. You know, it's
Mm-hmm.
like, you know, there, you know, your listeners can do some digging, but there's peptides, there's signaling
Mm-hmm.
molecules, there's protein fractions, there's different things. Again, we're talking about a very complex substance. You know,
Yeah.
it's not vitamin C ascorbic acid. It's an organ, so it has all of these unique things in them.
All right. I
Um,
love that. That makes me, I
yeah,
want to take it now. I'm thinking about all
yeah,
those synergies in the pancreas and the different enzymes. I think, oh, yeah. And that sounds
yeah,
really good for my
yeah,
skin, my body, my energy. Interesting.
yeah. So they all work together. I take both personally.
Okay.
You know, it's being in the supplement industry, one would think, you know, I'm asked this a lot, like, oh, how many supplements do you take? What are all the things you take?
Yeah.
You know, it would probably be very disappointing to a lot of people that my supplement shelf is not some war zone of, you know, 85
Yeah.
different products. You know, there's like, you know, 8 or 9 things I take on a daily basis. And then other than that, you know, it's mostly foods
Eating good
and
food.
other,
Mm-hmm.
yep, you got it. That's
Awesome.
right.
Awesome. Would somebody need to take vitamin D along with and omega along with the other supplements? What are your thoughts on that?
Uh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, our supplements don't contain either of those
Yeah.
nutrients in any meaningful quantities. Both of those are incredibly important. It's one of my, you know, kind of staple. I don't take omega 3s. I eat a lot of fatty fish
Yeah.
on a daily basis. So
Mm-hmm.
that's something I don't do. But if you don't eat fatty fish, then yes, omega 3s are
Yes.
important. By all means, continue to take both of those. Vitamin D is hugely important. You know, during the winter months, I personally take around 4,500 to 5,000 IUs. During the summer, I take zero because I spend a lot of time. I mean, I'm talking winter here where, you know, it's like right now it's like 18 degrees outside.
Yeah.
We're having unbelievably cold, you know,
Yeah.
cold week
You're
right
not
here.
getting
But
outside.
during this,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, but during the summer, if you can get sunlight, like
Mm-hmm.
the first recommendation is to get natural sunlight,
Mm-hmm.
right? Not sunburn, but sun,
Yeah.
like 20 to 30 minutes max, you're good. And there's a lot. I mean, even vitamin D supplements are missing some of the magic that
Right.
happens from sunlight. There's things that happen when you're exposed to sun that vitamin D supplements do not do.
Right.
So vitamin D is very important. Omega 3s very important. Please, yeah,
Yeah,
definitely
and these
continue to take
do
those.
work really well. The
Oh,
ancestral
absolutely.
supplements work really well with your vitamin D because, as we're talking, needing cofactors and things like that, you've got to have that K2 to utilize that D3, and so you're going to get that vitamin K in the ancestral food supplement.
Correct. In the bone marrow. Yeah,
Yes,
in the
in
bone
the
marrow.
bone
And
marrow.
so the trifecta there is K2, magnesium, and vitamin D. Those three together just make beautiful magic together.
I love
It's
that.
really, really impressive. Yeah.
Jared, is there anything that you feel that you want to share with us that didn't get covered today that you just feel is pressing and important for people to know today on this show?
Um, my my biggest message to people is that health and creating optimal wellness does not have to be extraordinarily complex. You know, there are really foundational inputs that we can take action on that will yield exponential results. You know, and that's kind of that, you know, foundational approach that we're talking about here. Correct the gut microbiome, get some nutrient dense foods in your body, get your sleep right, and get some sunlight, and that's like 80%.
I
You
love
know,
that.
like there's you know, I know, you know, and you can rabbit hole on virtually any topic here, right? Like there is you can go as deep as you want just on a
Yes.
single nutrient,
Yeah.
vitamin K even, you know.
Yeah.
And and while that can be beneficial in some cases, right? All of the minutia and all of the, you know, hyper granular detail does not matter if you're not doing these foundational
Mm-hmm.
things,
Mm-hmm.
right? And there's others, you know, I'm not the, you know, innovator of that idea, right? There's other very brilliant minds in the health and wellness space that are echoing the same thing. You know, health and wellness is not complicated unless you make it complicated,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so getting that foundational piece as part of your lifestyle and your daily habits is the first step. And once you do those things, then you can start getting granular. But
Mm-hmm.
most people want to get granular before they do those foundational things first. And
Yeah.
that's often a mistake that's made. And so that's my message, you know, keep it simple, right?
Great.
Like it doesn't need to be 100 supplements and, you know, 900 different approaches. You know, it's eat a whole foods diet. Don't eat processed
Yeah.
foods. Get sunlight. Get your sleep. Foundational supplements, and a lot will start to solve itself.
Yeah. I love that. Jared, thank you for being with us today. It's been a
Absolutely.
wonderful conversation where I'm excited to start taking the organ complex now and adding that in and seeing how I feel over the next 30 days. Really awesome.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I love it.
All right.
It was fantastic talking with you.
Thank you. Have a great
All
day.
right.
Goodbye,
You
everybody.
too. Bye.